Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here live at 5 for a Monday. As it turns out, a lot of people are having colds or flus or a combo or something. It turns out that they get their test or they do a test and it comes back positive, and that's where they are. So in essence, as we are kind of navigating this time of the year, it happens time and time again. Many people, if they're going to get a cold or the flu or not be so well or energy just depleted, so they are needing some good R&R, some fluids, some better sleeps, less food, less carrying on, less busy. And yes, so just yesterday, somebody to come and pick up some chickens and cheese that I get from the farmers, and they had been, or one of them had been tested positive. And roadside pickup, but no, she not necessarily came in, but we kind of met halfway and gave a bloody hug. I mean, at the end of the day, people, this is nonsense. No sense. That's why nonsense exists, because it makes no sense whatsoever. And more and more people are seeing what it is. It is mild. It reminds them of what they had before. And corona, that's cold. Now, these things have been around for a very, very, very long time, which I thought at the time of early 2020 when they were talking about it, and I was able to understand the labels beyond cold, going, wow, brilliant. Brilliant. I wanted to give them a round of applause to come up with something that they will never find a cure for. Why? Because it's our own intelligence clearing out the toxicity in the body, because we haven't had, how can I say it, the time, the space to detoxify, to get rid of the natural waste products, never mind the ones that come in through lifestyle or just through the elements, the air and water. And that's how it turns out. So what do we have at Live at 5 today? As usual, I'm going to talk about something completely new, something different. It's not completely new. In essence, there's a lot of things that are not new. Either you're just discovering them for the first time. Sometimes the same things come up to people, same ideas come around to many other people, same ideas, and that's where we're before. So we're just going through life, kind of figuring out certain things. And then we're going to go into some of the news. And one of the things I wanted to do, and I'm going to unpack it with you today, is what I call kind of going through it together, and me just coming in with my comments, and then some jokes. Some jokes. So it's going to take a little while to unpack what I plan to unpack, but a few comments here. There's, again, a lot of stuff in the news. Same. It means more evidence, more evidence that things are not on the up and up. And again, reminding people that the test, since summertime, it could have even been springtime, whatever the timing is, they have said the test is faulty. In fact, right from March 2020 or April 20, as soon as they started using the PCR test, they said they had, this is the press conferences, had a very poor record, in a sense there would absolutely be false positives. Now, whenever the test came out, sometime in the spring of 2020, they didn't have it out initially, which is why they just labeled everything and anyone positive or with COVID or died for COVID. Let's just do that, and we'll figure it out after the fact, because my gosh, this has got to be what they say it is. And who's they? Who is they? Anyway, we're still in this, how can I say it? It feels to me there's a hamster wheel, multi times over, a whole city of hamster wheels, where there's a lot of spinning, a lot of changing, a lot of different directions, and they're moving this way, that way. That's what it feels like with the information. And of course, certain things that they have said before, they didn't hold true to it. Oh, we'll never mandate. No, we'll never do that. You Canadians, no, that's against the quotes, no, no. And then, of course, look what they've done. And they've done that and more, and put it on the shoulders of the people to do it if they want to survive, do it if they want to be able to do the things they want to do, as they said, travel and stuff. But here's the thing, I'm hearing stories that people have traveled recently, have traveled to places like Cuba, and went there and came back, never had one of these, never wore one of these, and they were able to go and come back, and no questions, nobody asked, nothing of that nature. So let me go into something new. There was probably a dozen years ago, I was at a conference and I was able to talk to this Dr. Andrew Keach. He's actually from New Zealand. And in New Zealand, you probably heard this now time and time again, but at this time it wasn't so known. But the cows, on this planet, some have been modified, and there's these numbers, A1 and A2, A2 being the more, the older version, or the ancestral version, or the ancient version, or the whatever we want to call it, that has a proper protein sequence, let's just say, within there, whereas the newer cows, with maybe there's some, I don't know how they come up with this stuff, but somehow modification for whatever reasons, and they now call it A1, and the A2 is preferred. So having my conversation with this fellow, I already knew that information, but he wrote this big reference book around colostrum, is the simple name I'm going to give it, but polypeptides is another way. I was going to read something in here. I have a lot of it marked in here, but I was going to read it here so that you understood. I mean, there's a lot of goodness in the colostrum. Let me explain first what colostrum is. The first milk from the cow for the newborn calf. And with this milk, my understanding is if they don't have the mother's milk within 5 days, well, it could be another cow, that they're very, very, very compromised, if not die. I mean, that's what I've heard. So in a lot of ways, there's a number of things in this colostrum. It's different than mother's or human milk, breast milk, as in there is a support for the immune system within the baby as well, within the womb. There's all this building up, and then of course there is the added benefit of having the breast milk and passing along immunity. And I say added because there's a number of things have happened already. So there's a lot. I mean, this is a very detailed scientific book, but there's obviously there's going to be quality here, which I'm not going to go too into, but let's just say here's a quote. I'm just trying to think of where colostrum is functional food. Here's a summary. Mankind was never designed to eat processed food, breathe polluted air, drink polluted water, or lead sedentary lives. I mean, that just speaks to, eat well, move well, I say rest and sleep well, relax well, and there you go, and breathe well. And then I guess you can add, because breathing is not necessarily something that we think of with food and moving and sleeping, but it's breath for sure. It has been shown great promise to help each and every one of us to lead a happier and healthier life. So colostrum can help us restore some of our lost balance. Right? It has been shown great promise. This book is highly referenced to scientific studies or research, very much so. And at the end of each chapter, they have information. There's graphs and stuff. But I wanted to talk specifically about other immune factors. Is this where it is here? Other immune factors. So there's much in the way of colostrum that are immune supportive. And let me see if I can just go through the names here the best I can. Anti-inflammatory, bovine secretion. Yeah, I mean, it gives you great detail immunoglobulins, gut immune components. So what is in colostrum is immune components, immunoglobulins, and I'm just going to go through here. Immunosupplementation of the gut. Let's see, bovine immunoglobulins, bovine being cow, immunoglobulin G, IgG, and immunoglobulin A. So there's these various different things for your immune system, certain particular molecules that are there, IgM, immunoglobulin M, and then secretory immunoglobulin A, SLGA. So there's all these names around immunoglobulins. Basically antibacterial, antiviral activity. Of course, you don't want the things that are not supposed to be in there. As in, you don't want to get them too out of whack. I mean, that's why a lot of people are working with various systems because I think the body is not in balance, possibly not, due to not eating properly, moving, just health lifestyle, that there's abundance of things that shouldn't be in there, pathogens, let's call them, or microbes that are not so much serving or they're not in check, they're just hanging around, they're probably a little bit of stress on the body. So anti-inflammatory activity. I mean, there's various things like prostaglandins that are they're very short-lived in the body, but they support a lot. So stability and immunoglobulin. So, I mean, it talks about, there's that word number 19. If you know me for anything, number 19 is an important, not an important number, but it's a number that comes up for me and gives me kind of clues. But there's many things that within these immunoglobulins that they are working to these different bacteria. So 19 between coli and pylori and pneumoniae and monocytogenes and all these salmonella, streptococcus, and so you've got all of these things. So they're found. These immunoglobulins are found to succeed in killing all of these 19 bacteria. It was also found that colostrum was better in killing these bacteria, and then milk hyperimmunized against the same 19 bacteria. So colostrum being the thing. So other immune factors, so lactoferrin, complement lysozyme, and lactoperoxidase, that would be an enzyme. But growth factors, that's what I wanted to come to. Colostrum, as might be expected, contains many growth factors. And their presence in colostrum is primarily to complete the growth and development of newborn gut. So I say in presentations to people that you are one big regeneration machine. So constantly, but different areas of the body take different amounts of time. I believe the gut is just days, a few days, a couple of days, so turns over quite quickly, whereas your skin may be 30 days or more. Now, it may slow down for the reasons it does, or may not necessarily complete its function. And hearing about the growth factors now, I'm saying to you, if you don't have enough energy in the body, then how are you supposed to actually have these new cells, these new healthy cells come about to be? We're all energy, everything's energy. You need energy to convert and to create new healthy cells. That's the anti-aging. That, in my opinion, even professional opinion, is the key to anti-aging. It's the raising your vibration component, whether that's through food, pure clean water, air, or thoughts. I mean, being able to detoxify, but having the energy to create these new healthy cells, no matter the age. So colostrum is in there, and so newborn gut, but in older children and adults, they act to repair damage to the gut lining that might result in leaky gut syndrome, as well as other health maintenance functions. So their main function in the organism is to regulate the growth and development of cells. So awesome for a newborn baby. I mean, the amount of growth they have earlier on is crazy, even as an infant. double, triple, quadruple their weight in such a short period of time. And then it somewhat slows down and continues to slow down. Their main function in the organism is to regulate the growth and development of cells. They play a major role in wound healing. So how many people, especially athletes, but anybody who has physical trauma, is required to kick into action and do this healing? That's why it takes time, it takes rest. You only have so much energy. But I'm going to show you the one I use and the one I recommend and why. And it's actually, the one I use is this very same doctor that I spoke to, Andrew Keach, a dozen or so years ago. And what he ended up doing is selling it through to another, and he was there and educating on it. But the body's growth factors are capable of increasing production. So we're looking at the immune system. We're looking at our defenses to, rid the body or, just tear down, engulf, those things that are not microbes, are not supposed to be in the body. So accelerate the healing, balancing blood glucose. Very important, this whole blood glucose management thing. I mean, it does tie into diabetes, hypoglycemia, it ties into metabolic syndrome. I mean, it's very much, as I say, in a lot of ways, everything is tied together. Reducing insulin need, increasing growth and repair of vital tissues, while metabolizing fat for fuel. Medical studies have shown that the vital growth factors IGF, and all these codes here, and nucleotides from bovine colostrum to be the identical to human in composition. And I've heard this before in the omegas, and for some of you who know healthy fats, omegas is something I have lectured on intensively and met with doctors and researchers and so forth. But it reminds me of the same thing when it comes to bovine being mammal. There is a like and like in the fat as well, not just in here in the growth factors and being similar to the human composition, but mammal fats, mammal omegas, be it those are omega-3 and 6 are the ones that are there. But I mean, this is a very lengthy book at the end of the day, but there's a lot of information that I've tagged and gone in here. So without talking too much about it, it seems like a lot of people are focusing on supporting the immune system, and I'm going to say just right up, being going to completely straight and practical with you, that all systems in the body are, how can I say, are not necessarily important, but they work together and they need to be supported together. And that's from the nervous system to all your elimination organs and your processes. Everything is connected. What I'm really kind of saying is that we don't need to be tunnel vision, the horse got blinders on. This is what we can avoid and stay away from, is putting on those blinders and focusing on doing things for only the immune system at the end of the day. If you were to look into some of those things that are being labeled as immune supportive, you would find out they probably have other functions as well, especially if they're a whole food. They have other functions as well. But as marketing has it, if they're saying that everybody, and we're telling them to be immune system focused, then that's where you'll get to. And we can step back from all of that. So this is Isommune with zinc. So I kind of forgot about colostrum in some ways as far as this product goes. I was buying it 2 or 3 times a year from the raw milk farmer where I was getting raw milk from, and I just would take it. But I was, I don't know, it just came to me because I know winter was coming up, and we're thinking about what could my parents do through the winter time that is not too difficult. So here is a liquid version of bovine colostrum, and the process, which is very, very important for the the colostrum is not to be in powder. The better quality is almost like you've heard of flash pasteurized. So it's a certain safe temperature, but it's so quick, flash, like a flash, but that meets regulations so that it can be sold in a bottle, right, and get a number. So it has to meet kind of those regulations. Otherwise, getting it directly from the source is so creamy yellow that it's very, very good for people. Not going to hurt you if you take it. Children can take it. All ages can take it. And safely, you can take it therapeutically, or you can take it preventative, which I can't say the same thing for other things that people use for their immune system, like oil of oregano. I kind of avoid that. There's so many things that are going to be for the things. So I'm just going to grab my bottle here because I want to quickly show you when it's in liquid form like this. Now they added zinc. It didn't always have zinc in it, but because we talk about the immunity and how important zinc is, several years ago the company added zinc to the product. And does that make it a better product? I guess in some ways you can think of marketing and okay, it's got zinc in there. It's great to have minerals that are liquid at the end of the day, so it would be liquid in order for it to be in there. But here's the simple thing. So I just have this bottle because it doesn't have to be refrigerated. They can just have it beside their chair and just spray it in, and it's to me it tastes great. But some people are always looking for the sweetest of things, but it's just bovine colostrum, and in a spray bottle supported with zinc, mineral zinc, and there you go. Very simple. I'll put a link down below so you can read more about it. But remember, bovine colostrum powders are mostly what they have out there. I think if you're going to get your money's worth and you're going to get the effectiveness because it actually is the real deal, then it's the liquid you want to go, and you want to make sure that's flash pasteurized. I don't know of any others in Canada. This one comes from the States. And the raw material used to come from New Zealand, but eventually they brought over cows and raised cows of the same nature that was in New Zealand. That's my understanding. But that's bovine colostrum, and and if you've ever heard about protein, and especially even around the whey, this takes it up a few notches. That's how I'll get you to understand it, because there's much about the milk in itself of being highly supportive for your immune system as well, your proteins, and how they're easy digestible. So this is and supporting your immune system, when I studied this other book, was by 500%. So like other protein powders that were from legumes perhaps, or nut milks and whatever, it's not the same. It's not bovine, it's not mammal, and you have a significant difference in effectiveness even with just the whey proteins or the protein powders by using a bovine and having, as the research showed, 500% improvement in support for building muscles and the immune system by using mammals. So it's the same thing as I'm learning with other things as well. Let's jump in. I'm going to put my trusty pinhole glasses on here to read, but first I will show you what I have here. You might have already been privy to listening to people running out like crazy to get these free tests that were being given out. I mean, I've never seen anything like it at times. Lineups and rushing, and I'm just glad nobody's hurt. So my daughter's in grade 11, so she tells me last week, the last day of school, or it was a few days after that, Mom, I have a present for you. And am I going, wow, this is before Christmas. So this is what it was. It was the Rapid Response COVID-19 Antigen Rapid Test Device for the direct and qualitative detection of SARS-CoV-2. They don't even have it isolated, so I'm not quite sure. Viral nucleoprotein antigens, and for in vitro diagnostic use only. Stand tubes here. I'm just kind of reading things so we can, and in French, of course. Lovely, lovely. So, I'm going to read I want to show you something very quickly before I go. So, I made pierogies for the first time. I think I helped in a larger group, but this time it was my sister. And I got all these potatoes, but one of the potatoes looked like a heart, or as my sister would absolutely come up with, it looks like an ass. But anyway, it makes me laugh because it makes me think, how is the design of the heart? Where does it come from? But anyway, as nature is, it comes in all shapes at times, so we can have, minimally we can have a laugh or really enjoy what it is. So let me just see if I actually have enough light here to read this. So this is a procedure card. Oh my goodness, it's so small. I mean, trust me, people, you needing glasses. Why? Because the print is so small on things. You're straining your eyes like crazy. And I mean, I have my pinhole glasses on, and even then, you have to have really, really good light, and that's not what I have. So let's just see. Procedure card. Bring all testing material specimens to room temperature before use. Process specimens as soon as possible after collection. Step 1. So, I'm going to show some of the things here. I am going to show you. I'm going to show you. Now, this is the insert. And I got to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, or not with a fine-tooth comb, but I'm going to read it word for word. But that's the bigger one. I'm only reading to you the steps and the procedures here, but what's on here, because some people have said to me that you shouldn't take it if you have no symptoms or asymptomatic, something like that. I can't tell you if it says that, because I can't tell you. Now, if I was a little bit more organized and had read through it, then I would, test other things, because the other things I'm hearing is people are testing different things, like oranges, and they're getting a positive. And sometimes, if I think of chemistry, there's so many factors that can make things go this way or that way. But anyway, these are the little tubes, and we have these tall, long, swabby, I'm not sure they're like swabby things, and then these they're like a mini cassette, not sure, but when we read the instructions, so mini cassette. So we have all these parts, these pieces here. Anything else? Yes, there's liquid. So there's these little vials, and then kind of little vials, plastic little vials with liquid in it. And then you have the box, and then they talked about the stand. Now, I know there's 5 tests, but they say they're labeled to 8, 1 to 8, whatever that means. Is there anything else? No, that's it. That's it. So some people are running out crazy and trying to get them for free and then sell them in the parking lot. That's the third thing I've been hearing about these antigen tests kind of thing. So let's see. Before collecting the sample, place the extraction tube into the tube stand so it stands upright. Gently mix the extraction buffer bottle, whatever that is. Buffer bottle. Okay. That might be something in that cassette. Let me open this cassette thing. It doesn't feel like there's anything in there but a cassette, but let's open it up and make sure I can see what everything is here. Nope, that's the test. It reminds me of the pregnancy test in some ways. And we're going to have to put some liquid on there. And why they call it cassette, I'm not sure. So let's see what else they say here? So empty the entire contents of one single-use extraction buffer vial. That must be the fluids. It's the fluids, and we're supposed to empty one of those buffer liquid vials into a little tube there, into the tube, into the vial. So the vial is where the liquid's going to go into. Without touching the buffer bottle to the extraction tube, add 10 drops into the extraction tube. Okay, you know, these things aren't very big, so you can not touch the buffer bottle or the buffer little packet with liquid in it to the extraction tube. Well, I don't think they expected young people to do this. And then only add 10 drops. Interesting. And it looks a little bit different, this little difference. Let's continue on. But that thing that they show me there, there's the vial. I'm not quite sure if I have the buffer thing. Anyway, it looks a little different. It looks like another bottle-like thing, but maybe it's just the liquid. So step 2, option A. Oh, you can do the nasal swab. Remove the swab from its packaging and gently insert the sterile swab tube into the nostril, parallel to the palate and not upwards. The distance should be equivalent to that from the ear to the nostril of the patient, indicating contact with the nasal pharynx. Whoa! That kind of goes back, which is the length of these swabs. They got a picture of the person being down, and at the end of the day, it's going. I'm trying to see here. So there's nose, and so there's the side of the mouth. So it's going back to here. Yeah, just kind of with the jaw. That's the distance. Okay, we got that. Or until resistance is encountered. What kind? The person, or actually you've hit the back. Okay, you've hit the end. Gently rub and roll the swab. Leave in place several seconds to saturate tip with secretion. Slowly remove the swab while rotating it. And then this must have been what they were using for testing, rapid testing, the actors, you know, when they were the nasal swab kind of thing. Remove the swab from its packaging. All right, so now that was some nasal stuff here, nasal swab. Tilt the patient's head back 70 degrees. Insert the swab through the anterior nares in contact with nasal septum at least 0.5 inches inside the nostril until mid-resistance is encountered at the middle turbinate. Yep, so now you got to know your body length. Now you got to know the parts of your body. Step 3, using a circular motion, the nasal orifice should be swabbed for a minimum of 5 seconds. So this one is just a nasal swab, whereas the other one is the nasopharyngeal swab. Okay, so we have two nasal things here. Compress the nostril with the fingers to trap the swab tip and rotate the tip for a minimum of 5 seconds. Okay, so you're supposed to hold your nose and then rotate it for 5 seconds. So obviously I want to make sure this is moist and getting the secretions as possible. And then remove and repeat for the other nostril with the same swab. Well, there you go. And then step 3 is the test procedure. So insert the swab with the collected specimen into the extraction tube. Swirl the swab, mixing well. Squeeze the swab 10 to 15 times by compressing the walls of the tube against the swab. Well, there you go. Get every drop you can. So where we are, step 3, Then After you do that, with the swab still inside, securely place the extraction tube upright into the tube stand and let the swab stand in the solution for 2 minutes. Remove the swab while pressing the swab head firmly against the inner wall of the tube to release as much liquid as possible. Dispose of the used swab in accordance with the appropriate biohazard waste disposal protocol. Interesting. So you either have the cooties or there's things on the swab that is the cooties. Okay, so 3.3, so you've got to remove the swab while pressing, yep. Step 3.4, attach the nozzle to sample extraction tube, so it has a lid on it. Invert the tube and add 3 drops of the extracted solution into the sample well of the test device. So that's what the cassette that I took out reminds you of, like a pregnancy test. And by gently squeezing the tube, start the timer. Wait for colored lines to appear. Read results at 15 minutes. So you put that in, and results interpretation. You've got a positive if you have 2C reds, or dark reds, and T is 1 red and 1 not red. Oh, so you have two possible positive outcomes. One is 2 red lines, or one is a red line and a faded red line. And for a negative, you only have a red line for the C. That's probably the control to make sure the test is working okay. So if you have nothing under the T, then you're okay. And if you have nothing under the C, but something is in a faded red under the T, or nothing under the T, nothing altogether, then it's invalid. So this reference sheet is not replacement for the product insert. Read the instructions prior to use and follow directions carefully. Okay, well, there you go. It's not a replacement for. So what is this for then? I guess once you've read the big sheet, which, I mean, it is a big sheet, it's nothing, I mean, I'm already falling asleep just looking at it, to tell you the truth. It's crazy. I mean, it goes, whoa, I mean, it goes into the principle. Oh, that's nice. Materials. Yep, that way I can make sure I have everything. And then precautions. Oh, let's read the precautions. Let's see what they have under precautions. Well, let's see the other titles. So storage and stability. So you're not to freeze it. And you have to keep the device 2 to 30 degrees Celsius when not in use. Kits are stable until expiration date marked on the outer packaging. Okay, specimen collection and storage. Test procedure. Just goes through that. Result. I probably can read it without my pinhole glasses. Quality control. Limitations of the test. Performance characteristics. What else is there? Let's see what else is there. I don't really need for this here. Cross-reactivity, microbial interference study, interfering substances. That's a lot of interfering substances. And then you have, glossary of symbols, which is good. Do not reuse. Oh, let's see. Okay, so let's read precautions. Let's read a couple of these parts in here. They're not necessarily about the process of it, but actually the precautions. So for in vitro diagnostic use only, read the product insert prior to use. Directions should be read and followed carefully. Do not use kit or components beyond expiration date. The device contains material. Oh, the device contains material of animal origin and should be handled as a potential biohazard. Do not use if pouch is damaged or open. I get that. Test devices are packaged in foil pouches that include moisture during storage. Inspect each foil pouch, that's with the test, before opening. Do not use devices that have holes in the foil or where the pouch has been not completely sealed. Erroneous results may occur if test reagents or components are improperly stored. Do not use the extraction buffer if it is discolored or turbid. It's kind of like a white clear color. Discoloration or turbidity may be a sign of microbial contamination. That would just tell me that it is not, it has potential for microbial contamination. But that would be the liquid. All patient specimens should be handled and discarded as if they are biologically hazardous. All specimens must be mixed thoroughly before testing to ensure a representative sample prior to testing. Failure to bring specimens and reagents to room temperature before testing may decrease assays sensitivity. Inaccurate or inappropriate specimen collection, storage, or transport may yield false negative test results. Well, how about a false positive? They don't talk about a false positive. Well, not yet anyway. If infection with SARS-CoV-2 is suspected based on current clinical and epidemiological screening criteria recommended by public health authorities, specimens should be collected with appropriate infection control precautions and sent to state or local health departments for testing. So I guess if you test positive, then okay. Viral isolation in cell culture and initial characterization of viral agents recovered in cultures of SARS-CoV-2 specimens are not recommended except in a BSL-3 laboratory using BSL-3 work practices. I'm not quite sure what that is. So viral isolation in cell culture and initial characterization of viral agents recovered in cultures of SARS-CoV-2 specimens are not recommended. Okay, so I'm not quite sure if this is kind of beyond what most people will understand when they're reading it. It might be more for nurses or something like that. But let's see what they say about, there's that other section that I'll just read quickly. Then I'm, since I've opened one of the packages already, which I guess is that foil thingy, I'll probably do a test as well. But it goes on to talk about limitations of the test. So let's see what we have here. I just want to see if it actually says anything about a false positive. And that I'll probably have to read the whole thing in order, if it's not in here. So quality control, internal procedure controls. The rapid response COVID-19 antigen rapid test device was built in procedural controls. Each test device has an internal standard zone to ensure proper sample flow. The user should confirm that the colored band located at the C region is present before reading the result. That's kind of like the control. External positive and negative controls. Good laboratory practice suggests that positive and negative external controls are run routinely to ensure that the test is correctly performed. External positive and negative controls should be used, and negative controls, should be used in accordance with applicable accrediting organizations. However, recommends labs receiving the test execute and control tests for each lot of the kits. That's not unusual that a company, even in supplementation, the natural product number, you're like sending something from the lots all the time at different, if you don't are familiar with this, so let's say a company gets a shipment, and I'll talk to oils. The product could have been contaminated before it got to the plant. So the idea is to test the product, the bulk product, or sample of the bulk product to make sure it's not contaminated. Then you put it through your process. And when you put it through the process, you want to make sure that in the process, or the bottle itself, or in the process bottle itself, there's nothing that's contaminated. And then when it puts into the bottle, then you can send one of the finished products to be tested to make sure it wasn't contaminated or something in the bottle that's contaminating. So all along the way, you can test the product, and that way you can tell if there's any contamination that comes in and where it comes in. So Antigen Controls, so positive, negative controls are provided upon request with the kit. And these controls should be used according to the Nasopharyngeal Swab test procedure provided in this package insert. Okay, so those are the controls. So limitations of the test. This is what I really want to read. The Rapid Response COVID-19 Antigen Rapid Test Device is for professional in vitro diagnostic use and should only be used for the qualitative detection of SARS-CoV-2 antigen. The intensity of color in the positive band should not be evaluated as quantitative or semi-quantitative. All right. 2. Both viable and non-viable SARS-CoV-2 viruses are detectable. Viable and unviable? That, or non-viable. Interesting. I wonder what the non-viable one is. That mean it's like super dead, not something, are detectable with the rapid response antigen test. I'm going to have to look that up. Viable and non-viable SARS-CoV-2 viruses. As with all diagnostic tests, a definitive clinical diagnosis should not be based on the results of a single test, but should only be made by the physician after all clinical and laboratory findings have been evaluated. Yeah, but yet, if people are testing positive with this test, they're making the phone calls, they're having to self-isolate. I mean, that's my understanding, but I'll have to ask more questions. Failure to follow the test procedure and result interpretation may adversely affect that test performance and or invalidate the test result. Well, people better be, besides telling you that this is for the professionals, failure to follow the test procedure, right, yep. Results obtained with this assay, particularly in the case of a weak test lines that are difficult to interpret, should be used in conjunction with other clinical information available to the physician. Something tells me people aren't going to the physicians when they get a positive. They're making a phone call or something, but let's see if they actually tell you what to do here, or maybe on the Health Canada public website here. So negative results do not preclude SARS-CoV-2 infection. There you go. You get a negative test and you still may have it. And should be confirmed via molecular assay. Well, where do we have to do that then? Now what comes next? The performance of the device has not been assessed on specimens from individuals who have been infected with the emerging variants, yes, of SARS-CoV-2, a public health concern. Okay, so I'm not quite sure how they know. Is this only for SARS-CoV-2? But meanwhile, they're telling everybody that the other one's hanging around and the other one's disappeared. The performance of this device has not been assessed in a population vaccinated against COVID-19. That makes no sense at all. I'd probably just throw this test in the garbage. It's telling you all kinds of things here. You can't rely on it. And even if you got a negative, that may not be, you're not infected. And they tell you they haven't even tested. If you've been vaccinated against COVID-19, they haven't even tested this device to see how and what comes up. Crazy. This assay is not intended for home testing. So why in the name did they send this test home for people? Right? This assay is not intended for home testing or self-testing. This is crazy. This makes me think that the leaders are going, Desperate times call for desperate measures. We just better have everybody take these tests home, better do it, because they can't get them to clinics fast enough, or whatever the thing. Clinical studies in asymptomatic patients undergoing serial testing are ongoing to establish the clinical performance. Asymptomatic patients still ongoing. Now let me kind of get this straight. It was back in April 2020, and we are in December 21, and they're still ongoing with testing with asymptomatic. How is that even possible? Seriously. The performance of this test has not yet been clinically validated for use in patients without signs and symptoms of respiratory infection, or for serial screening applications, and performance may differ in these populations. The performance of this test has not yet been clinically validated for use in patients without signs. So that must be where the person said, if you don't have symptoms, this has not been evaluated for if you don't have symptoms of respiratory infection. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they have a lot of, as you would read something, a lot of asterisks here to kind of not come into it. So these limitations of the test are absolutely, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, first of all, they're telling you this is not a home test. And just reading already with this card, procedure card, which is about, you can see how small it is, and yet it has the procedure, but then it tells you you must read all of this first. I mean, if people are doing this without even reading this, and if you're asymptomatic, and or if you've had your vaccine, which a lot of people, not a lot of people, I don't know how many people really truly have it. I don't necessarily believe the numbers. They could have an algorithm in the system. The pharmacist, whoever are giving them could be putting in numbers, but they could have an algorithm that says, okay, we're going to take the number you put in, but we're going to times it, by 1.6 or something, increasing the numbers by 60%, and nobody would know any different. They're doing what they're doing, but they wouldn't know any different. So I'm going to have to read this in entirety thing here just to be able to conduct a test. Not on me. I am not putting any of this swab stuff or fluid, but I'm going to read it to see if it has what it's made of, see what it says. But this is a biohazard, already says that, and that might be just primarily why they call it a biohazard, is because they're making, CoV, SARS-2, whatever, into a biohazard in itself. Oh my goodness, you could put it on somebody else, stick it into somebody else's nose by accident or something like that. Did you use the right swab? Did you use a new one? They're probably thinking on that, and I would say it's probably no big deal. So I guess you have to be sick in order to use this test, would be one thing. And two, you better read the instructions 3 times and make sure that you're doing it correctly, as in you don't touch the liquid on the side of the tube, and you stick it in your nose the right way, one way or the other, and then you have to drop it on that cassette thing to see kind of what comes up. I guess I gotta get liquid of something. I mean, an orange is very liquidy, so I guess it's going to be of that kind of nature. It's not just a surface of the orange, but it's got to be somehow the liquid. But anyway, I'll do that, and I'll let you know what it's all about. In the meantime, it seems like at this time, of course, it's the holidays, there's been a lot put out by the leaders. Are people really following it? Not me. And definitely yeah, they say they recommend no more than these people and recommend, but I know people that were having 20 people over. Uh, I've heard many stories where people are just in the back door. They have a business to run. In some cases they have a business to run, a life to lead, and they're going to make their life and fun. They don't see the writing on the wall. There's been so much nonsense that it's not concerning to a number of people, even though some got their injection and some did not. But yeah, I'm hearing more and more that my neighbors, they're really concerned about me. Yeah, and they really don't, yeah, it's like they're afraid or fearful of or disappointed, or yeah, they think I'm a mad person or something like that, not thinking straight. I'm really concerned about. Now, they have nothing to be concerned about other than maybe we should have a chat and go through some things. I'd like to hear everything that they are thinking and for why and for exactly why. That would be a lot of fun. But so there's a lot of information around the world about certain things being closed down, changed, more pressure, locked up, like Ireland. 5 o'clock pubs got to close it up, and schools. They're putting it out there that depending on what happens, that they may do all online school. So what came through the last week of school was, make sure you bring all your items home. Make sure you bring all your items home because you may not be going back to school again. And even though it's voluntary to input information into the systems, there is repetitively written in emails to please volunteer whether your child has or has not been vaccinated. And just not going there, But it does seem that more and more people are, what can I say, questioning and participating and having a desire to support, no matter if they've got the injection or not. They just kind of support because they don't want to get the BOOSTER. They don't want to get it. So things are growing and support is growing, and cross my fingers, might be able to have an opportunity to speak to large groups of people, whether at the rallies or not. But the idea is definitely, I'm hearing that egos are a thing within the groups. Within people. It's not unheard of that people have their beliefs and they want to be heard. So therefore, it's about doing what they believe. Anyway, it's a tricky business, the altered ego, I will call it. And yes, because people want to feel like they've heard, want to feel or even take credit for something. They just want to take credit for something and get their name on it. Oh, it was my idea. There's a reason for that all happening, but at times it's not the reason now to be arguing over certain things. So I'm hoping within leadership that I can bring my experience to the table and say things. But again, everybody has their thoughts and wishes and dreams and desires and all of that we have that normally, never mind in an event like today. It happens in so many ways, and this is where we just kind of have to understand it more deeply, which is why the Awakening You presentation, where I teach about the ego, you get a much better appreciation of what it is, and then you almost can sit back and kind of laugh. You're not taking life so seriously. You're not taking these thoughts, these beliefs, and things that you took honestly from other people, from your peers, from your parents, learned it, been told that it is the right thing, or but in reality, in true reality, or in simple practical reality, it really doesn't matter. If you have the discussions on things, you'll soon learn that it's just, alter ego, and your beliefs have caused us to see things in a certain way. And this is why perspective and understanding perspective and flipping it upside down, looking, turning it around, being in the other person's shoes, all of these things are very helpful and to see how the mind works. But if things work out, then I'll be able to communicate what I would call more practical thinking on our health, all our well-being, the purpose, the purpose of life and living and peace and happiness. And again, these are all labels, but feelings and emotions are all part of this human life. I want to read a couple of things because I watched a short video. I'll put it down below, but it is about certain people that through the years, even though they're not with us anymore, like John Lennon, John Waters, Jim Morrison. So they have, somebody put a wonderful video together, a fairly short video, 23 minutes, and it goes through some of their interviews and some of the things that they have said over, we're talking decades ago for some of them. For most of them, but I found Jim Morrison's. I've always liked certain things about Jim Morrison. He was a poet, and obviously the famous thing is the famous thing. But he really wanted to be taken seriously with his music. But he got into drugs and the other people and stuff. But what Jim Morrison says is the music, the drama, the television, the movie, all that, he says, quote, hypnotize people into a walking sleep. So when he looks out to the audience, and this is what I get out of it, and he says a little bit more on it, he's seen a group of people that are worshiping, they are losing themselves on others, or who people they don't even know, really. They like the music, whatever. But he goes on to say that the radio, so he's tapping into music, and he goes on to say they are programmed by their radios. He says the stations, they play 30 songs repeatedly over a 24-hour period, repeatedly over and over and over. So then he goes on to say what you hear the most is what you will like the most. Right? So at times, this will probably come true in a couple of, okay, I watched that, I read that, I ate that, I saw that, and I didn't like it at first, but now it's growing on me, or I like it better now, or it took me 6 times to hear it, or 6 times to try it, and now you like it, kind of grows on you. And I think that's what he was saying here. So what you hear the most is what you will like the most. So the programming is the repetition, in this case of music, of a certain beat perhaps. And the guy that was interviewing, which I don't know what it says, but he comes in and he says, yeah, we are the victims of media. The victims of media and not being fully aware of it. So Jim Morrison says, I am me. I'm not anybody else. I am me. And you are yourself, and express it. And express it. So you really, we get lost in the fame, lost in the movies, lost in, they kind of talk more. But the idea is you're watching and spending hours and hours and hours. And this makes so much sense. You're putting your time and your energy and your thoughts and whatever. And in some ways, the mind may not know that it is just a movie. You're hearing these things, you're learning the sounds, everything, feelings, emotions, sometimes exactly with what they want you to feel and think based on the narrative in the movie. If it's a sad part, well, you could cry your eyes out, or you could be angry. And so there's all these feelings and emotions that are evoked in watching these things or listening to things. So, in essence, he goes on to say that that's not true reality. You want to be living, then you live your own reality. You live with what's around you and your friends and your family and getting together, not sitting down and watching television for 3 or 4 hours. That's not living. That's not living. And this is very practical, and I can't remember all the words and how he said it. I'm kind of expanding on it, but the idea is people do like to, as they'll say, leave everything else. They kind of forget everything about their day, or looking at their day, or planning what matters most, which is taking care of themselves. So it's just like, boom, plop down, popcorn, pizza, beer, whatever, and just watch some sports, and everything around them kind of just disappears. The sadness disappears, the fact that they hate their job disappears. So I get it, and we can all get it and better understand what it is that people would be trying to avoid thinking about. Possibly they have no choice because they're in debt and they have a family. You can see how it becomes what it becomes, right? So people are making different choices these days. That's the homesteading, the tiny home, off the grid, community living, 2-3 generations in a home now, all of those things. And so I continue to converse with a lot of people on many different things to gather their personal experience as well as my own and have discussions on things. But if I had my snap of the fingers right now, it would be that all of the long-term care facilities would be gone, and every elderly that are in these facilities come off of their meds the best they can, the most they can, and in the way that it should happen. And they are in their homes, and the people who are their loved ones see the benefit of that and welcome it and have the facilities to house them. They have their own space, their own room. And because what I hear time and time again too is when the people come off of meds, they're more vibrant again. So I'll tell you a couple of stories here, as we can see that it's over an hour. But one story is, I was talking to somebody, he's from Chile, and his grandmother was alive till she was in her 90s and was on no meds at that point. But at one point, they were around with the mother. That's what it was. His mother was in the hospital, and as they do, they give drugs to them, make them feel comfortable, whatever it is, ease their whatever, and without anybody asking question. But he said no, she's not going to be on any drugs, because what happened is he went into the hospital and his mother didn't recognize him. So he says, well, what's happened? Is she on any meds or whatever? It took her off on the meds. He went back a couple of days later and his mother recognized him. So I want to kind of give you the idea that what these meds do at times is they disconnect our head from our heart, and they can't feel, but it makes the brain cloudy, makes the brain foggy. Obviously, in this case, forgets her own son. And these are the kind of things we can think of. So if I could snap my fingers, that's what I would do. There would be no long-term care facilities. Everything would be in the home, the family, and of course, not to get stressed out about it, but the home and the family would be okay with it, and they would be set up. They would be set up for that, and things would turn around, and they'd be able to help out with the children, wisdom, family, love, all that kind of stuff. But you can see there's so much dysfunctioning happening, so many things that people are doing that it doesn't make a lot of sense. The last thing that I will mention is in Chile. It also mentions in the anesthesia as well, which I'll at some point post the link to the Awakening Book Club, because we're going to do those 9 books again this year, is they call it a living fence. So he was telling me that back home, they don't have fences like we do here. They do not have fences. They have living fences, just like in anesthesia. He'd never read the books Anesthesia, but they would plant trees, they would plant raspberry bushes, they would, gardens along there, but they could easily say hello to their neighbors, have a conversation, all of that kind of stuff, and not feel bothered. And he says, and the difference also he saw, he was up at one of the areas here in Toronto where they have the big homes, and there's a handful of them. I think it was Lawrence Park, big homes. And he says in the middle of the summer, he is, whether he's driving around, I think he's driving around, no activity, no children, no people out, no nothing. But back home, in some of these areas where they have big homes, I guess similar to here, but an area there, and everybody's out and about talking. The children are playing. They have, maybe the older generations sitting on the porch or sitting out there doing something, moving and being outside. He says it's like so surreal to see it here and then to understand what they do back home. So I feel that our Western society has gotten so closed, so divisive. In some ways, many people don't even want to say hello to the neighbor. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be bothered. Whether that means they're on their phone too often or not, who knows? Who knows? But let's read a couple of jokes and then wrap it up, and we will see you next year, as they say. So there was a couple on here, but let's read a couple. And let's see here. So question answer. Why was Cinderella thrown off the baseball team? Answer, because she ran away from the ball. I get that'd be a good reason. Ollie and Polly. Ollie, what would you get if Mickey Mantle married Betty Crocker? Polly, I don't know. What? Ollie, a better batter. A better batter. There you go. One more. Bob and Rob. Bob, I went riding this afternoon. Rob, horseback? Bob, oh yes. He got back 2 hours before I did. Okay. La-di-da-di-da. Sometimes I even have to think twice. But I'm going to wrap it up there. I want you to, y'all can carry on with our evening. And I'll post some links down below as mentioned. And I think for everybody, you're probably getting a number of links. You're probably on a number of groups. You're probably on a number of emails. And you're getting various information. And this information, again, is may not be true because it's better to be there. And what I'm hearing from people directly is it's not always what the social media or the news are saying. It's usually that. But I will say that if people are complying, then they are complying on their own accord, and they may not even really have to, but they do. And so that's kind of the trust factor here. You're going to do exactly as they're saying. But I want to wish everybody a wonderful evening. You can do whatever you like. I'm not complying on any front whatsoever, and even less so over time, and figuring this Constitution thing out. That's what I can say. And if you haven't already heard, but I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I do know one portion of it is true, is that the Queen of England is not at the Buckingham Palace, which I think I saw videos on that like a couple of years ago. But there's rumors are circulating that she has, she has not been, she's been 6 feet under, I'll just say it that way so you understand what I mean, for longer than what we understand or knew, and that actors are in people's places. So who knows? Who knows? I only say this because then you can park it as well as I've parked it, and we'll kind of see what happens at the end of the day. Right? It's kind of fun. We don't really know it to be true. We don't know it not to be true. So we can just park it and see what happens. So I'm going to carry on with this test, and if anything crazy happens, I'll report. Otherwise, enjoy your evening, enjoy the week, and I will see you next Monday live at 5. And I guess that's it. So I'm not even sure if... They don't message. Oh, I have to go down now because messages used to be on one side. So Vern says they don't seem to understand that which either belief one has, and they're fed up. Yeah, exactly. The truth of it is that there's the people have had enough, no matter what they believe, what they've done. And I know I keep telling people that as far as I'm concerned, everybody's welcome. I'm not going to be part of this segregation. I'm not going to be part of this division. Howard, most people don't even understand what full, meaningful, voluntary, informed consent is. Yes. Absolutely. That's, I mean, at any rate, what people can gather is that, or cannot gather, that is what's missing. You know, what's missing. I'm going to see if I can find it, but it was this pharmaceutical guy, and there was somebody who was filming it. He didn't know, because you could tell just by, you know, cutting off his head or not, or the position of the camera, and you might have seen it already, but this pharmacist was being asked questions, and he says, yep, we have the full insert. And he was responding to her questions as best he can, and figured that he had everything there that he needed if he needed to. And he went to open up this insert, and it was blank. It was blank. Just as we've seen months and months and months ago, where all of the information, all the supposed information for your consent or for you to understand what this is, supposed to be there, but it was entirely blank. And in fact, this pharmaceutical guy, this pharmacist guy, just coming back goes, I'm ill-equipped here. I'm not prepared. What am I doing? Like, I know this is wrong based on the questions you're answering, and I can't answer them. I can't do my job. And so there's that too. So, Howard, the same insanity with these rapid self-tests and the standard face masks they sell and most people use, they don't work. But what ends up happening under a facade is, this is like a movie if you want to think about it. These are props. And the props make you feel like you have security, if that's what they want to. But at the other side of the security, by you wearing them, is you obviously have to be fearful in order to feel that these are your security. This is your security when they can all be let go. So thank you. I've heard of pinhole cameras, however, not glasses. Interesting. Pinhole glasses. Pinhole glasses to help with reading finer print. Yes. Yeah, they're lovely. Yep, not wearing sunglasses, wearing pinholes, because that way I don't have to wear glasses for the small print. I mean, people think they need to get glasses, that their eyes aren't working properly. No, the print is way too small. I mean, at the end of the day, you are straining your eyes by how small they've made this print. And then think about the light. Even though I know I have this ring light on and I have this light and I have the spotlights on, this is nowhere near the lovely daylight that we have outside for reading, right? So it's not at all. So if you're going to read, you read at daylight. And as soon as that daylight starts to go, no more reading. No more reading. Is colostrum affected? I think I'm reading this backwards, to tell you the truth. Is colostrum affected by hormones and antibiotics that are injected into the cow? Typically, yes, because of the milk. If you think of milk, colostrum is the first milk that comes out of the cow, so yes, it would. And so ideally, when I was talking about the type of cows for this particular colostrum, it was A2 cows. They were raised grass-fed only and raised in the way that cows would on their normal diet. The A2, A1 milk difference change is more of a manipulation in the proteins that way over time. Call it modification. But yes, the milk would definitely be affected. And so would the colostrum, because it's really just the first milk that comes out. Terrain theory is better than the germ theory. Yeah, Howard. Anyway, when we think of the terrain theory about bacteria in the gut and good and bad bacteria in the body, sometimes I'm kind of wanting to see the good in the terrain theory, the somewhat truth in the germ theory, and I want to call not germs anymore, because this is where we get the children and everybody all, germs. Call it microbes. So we have these things called microbes in our planet, and one set of microbes are those microbes that are life-giving, life-generating. Maybe you call it the good bacteria in the gut. And then you have the other microbes that are actually life recycling. Now, some of the things that are in our body, as they say for the viruses, they're just hanging out, and they can be produced in greater amounts. Let's say it was an animal, and the animal is living, and the animal has a good life, and most likely the microbes that are needed in there, or maybe on the sidelines, are there for the time that are needed. And it's no different than the immune system. The immune system won't get into action. If you have a cut, it gets into action. So there's these sidebar waiting things that are produced, like stem cells can be produced in the body, or healing potentials when there's healing potential needed. So if I think about what the deeper understanding and talking about the similar languages, you know, is a cold. If you have a cold, that is nature's really the body's intelligence of helping your body to detox. Anytime there's a mucus discharge, coughing, sneezing, all of this is meant to get out of the body. And so those particular microbes, which they're now labeling as viruses and so forth, but they're not bad. They're actually good. The ones that are not good, or life recycling, well, they're the maggots. There's the things that come into play to recycle, to compost things. So at times, that's how I'll kind of put it. And what I've understood too as well, especially through writing my book and even ongoing thinking about things, is everything they say starts in the gut. But I'm going to say it doesn't start in the gut. It's apparent that the gut is affected every time, but that it doesn't start in the gut. Anyway, much longer story, but I'm going to try and bring that, I'm going to bring that information into the Awakening You presentation, which is Thursday, January the 13th, and Saturday, January the 15th. So very simple, practical information. The first part is on the physical, the body, learning about your body, learning about the root causes of disease, the stages of disease. You'll see how it applies to all of the conditions and diseases that you're very familiar with. And then going into the matters of the mind, and this is where one part of it is you're going to understand it better, but I'm going to teach you what the altered ego, the positive ego, the negative ego, what that is. We'll do some exercise and homework in between parts, I guess, the body, the mind, and then the last part is the solutions. And I say simple solutions because the idea is this is not about you taking more supplements, and it's not really about you having more of a hectic life to be healthy either. It is to more simplify it. I'll never forget, I'll just leave this on the last note, I'll never forget being on a call with this indigenous teacher, and anybody could come on. I've been probably go on sometime in the new year, see if they still have it. And this made so much sense. I want to share this with you. That, I've heard people, and they've got their life figured out, in a sense, in their daily routines. They do something from Ayurvedic, they do something in Chinese, they do something from, maybe if they're indigenous culture, they do something, from Britain, they do something, they have all these pieces, and they're from different cultures. And what he said loud and clear, because there were some people on the call that actually had ancestors that were different. There's the Mohawk, there's the Iroquois, and they wanted to now study another one. And what was his recommendation? What his recommendation was, you can't do two things at once. So if you are studying Mohawk, I'm just putting these names out there, and you want to now learn maybe what your grandfather was in their culture and their name, let's just call it Iroquois to simplify it. So she was studying Mohawk, and that's what she kind of was raised with, perhaps, or studying it, and been studying it, and then was thinking about studying the Iroquois. And so the fella on the phone said, don't do both. You do one, or you do the other, and you leave the other one behind. Leave behind, and you move all the way, and you give your attention to that one. You give your energy to that one, And that's the time you do that. So when I hear people saying, well, I'm doing this as Buddhism, and I'm doing this, it's this, and then I'm doing this breathing because it's, from this guy up in Norway, and I think at times that I come back to what this person said, and this is why people are doing too much. Listen, you want peace in your life, you just sit still and pause and be quiet. I mean, there's so many different practices and cultures and ways of being, and there's so many different ones that it doesn't make sense that we're doing them all, doing this mishmash. Because what I learned from a yogi that I was studying pranayama with a couple of times was that in his culture, as a yogi, he was about yoga. And pranayama, the breathing, was really the core. That was really the essence of yoga. And when he came here, he was thrown for a loop with all the physical activity that yoga meant over here, and not the breathing component. But when they become yogis, they actually have to choose a path. Even within yoga, they have to choose a particular path to focus on to become a teacher in, student first, but then teacher. And that is what they have to continue on their path. They don't become a teacher of math when they're a teacher of English, and they don't become... So, in essence, oftentimes we're seeing the best in a lot of things, but that just brings us in all these different directions, and we're not getting to the higher wisdom within these interesting cultures or practices. We're just staying with the doing and not the being part of it. So the more you do it, you probably understand more and more, of course. But I hope I'm making myself clear there in those ways. And not sure if there's any other comments. But the idea is, pharmacist caught empty-handed. That's it. Thanks, Howard. Yeah, woman politely asks a pharmacist. So watch that short video. Thanks, Howard. Put that up there. I'll put the other links up. Again, thanks for joining Live at 5. Again, it's very much more about practical and coming together. And just wherever I can help, that's kind of what I want to be. And it's, I don't even want to embellish it one iota. Some people go, well, what are you good at and what are you an expert at? I just like, whatever. There's more to helping people than thinking I have to come up with some sort of marketing thing. But I do for the online university because they're wanting to have a bit of fun, and I got to come up with a title, 2 to 3 words, that's going to be unique versus all the other teachers, and just kind of focus in on one thing I do, which I don't do one thing. I do what I'm guided to do, and fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, I have fun, so I'm happy. I do what I like, and it's all good stuff. So take care, everyone. Again, enjoy your evening, enjoy your week, and we will see you, because we have a calendar thing. I'll see you next year. Take care for now. Bye for now.